Danny Carter stood at the viewport and watched the stars blur past. The ship was moving fast. Faster than anything he had ever traveled in before. 2 months ago, he was a Marine stationed on a base in Texas. Now he was somewhere in deep space, assigned to protect an alien princess he had never met. The ship was called the Horizon's Edge. It was one of humanity's newest vessels, built for diplomatic missions in the far reaches of the galaxy. Captain Lisa Monroe ran a tight crew, and Danny respected her. She was tough and fair, the kind of leader who earned loyalty instead of demanding it. Humanity was new to space. They had only made contact with alien civilizations 5 years ago. In that short time, they learned a hard truth. Humans were considered weak, small, unimportant. The great empires that ruled the galaxy looked at Earth the way a lion looks at a mouse. Not worth eating, not worth noticing. That was why humans got this job. 2 great empires, the Corvani and the Zyreth, had been at war for centuries. Now they wanted peace. But neither side trusted the other to host the negotiations, so they chose humans to escort the Corvani princess to the meeting. Humans were too weak to be a threat, too insignificant to have a stake in the outcome. Danny did not like being called insignificant, but he kept his mouth shut and did his job. The princess arrived on board with a group of attendants and guards. Her name was Valith, and she was the youngest daughter of the Corvani emperor. The Corvani were tall and slender, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. They moved gracefully, like dancers, and they spoke in soft musical voices. They were beautiful, in a strange and unsettling way. Princess Valith looked at Danny when they first met. Her eyes moved over him slowly, and her expression did not change. She said nothing. She simply turned away and walked to her quarters. One of her attendants whispered something, and several of them laughed quietly. Danny understood. He was beneath her notice. A primitive creature from a primitive world, assigned to guard her like a trained animal. He had dealt with worse. In the Marines, he had served under officers who treated enlisted men like dirt. He had survived combat missions that should have killed him. He had buried friends and kept moving. A princess who thought she was better than him was nothing new. His assignment was simple: stay close to the princess, watch for threats, report anything unusual. Ambassador Ryan Cole was handling the actual diplomacy. Danny just had to keep everyone alive until the negotiations were finished. The first few days passed without incident. Danny stood outside the princess's door during the day and patrolled the corridors at night. The Corvani ignored him. The human crew gave him sympathetic looks but kept their distance. He was alone in a ship full of people. On the 4th night, Danny noticed something strange. He was walking through the lower deck when he saw one of the Corvani attendants entering a restricted area. The man moved quickly and quietly, looking over his shoulder as he went. Danny followed. The attendant went to the communications array. He pulled out a small device and began connecting it to the main console. Danny watched from the shadows. His heart was beating faster now. This was not normal behavior. This was sabotage. He stepped forward. "What are you doing?" The attendant spun around. His eyes went wide when he saw Danny. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then the Corvani pulled a blade from his sleeve and lunged. Danny had been in fights before. Many fights. The Corvani was fast, but Danny was faster. He caught the alien's wrist and twisted hard. The blade clattered to the floor. The attendant tried to pull away, but Danny did not let go. He drove his elbow into the alien's throat and felt something crack. The Corvani collapsed. He was dead before he hit the ground. Danny stood over the body, breathing hard. His hands were shaking, not from fear, from adrenaline, from the old familiar feeling of combat that he had hoped to leave behind. He heard footsteps behind him. He turned and saw 3 more Corvani standing in the doorway. They were guards, and they had seen everything. For a long moment, no one spoke. The guards stared at Danny with something he had not seen before in Corvani eyes. It was not contempt. It was not dismissal. It was fear. One of them finally spoke. "You killed him. With your hands." Danny looked down at the body. He was sabotaging the communications. "He attacked me." The guards exchanged glances. Danny could see that they were struggling to understand what they had witnessed. The Corvani did not fight with their hands. They used weapons, technology, servants. The idea of killing someone in close combat was alien to them. Literally alien. Word spread quickly through the ship. By morning, everyone knew what had happened. The human had killed a Corvani assassin with his bare hands. The human had moved faster than anyone thought possible. The human was dangerous. Captain Monroe called Danny to her office. She looked tired and worried. "You did the right thing," she said. "But this complicates everything. The Corvani are nervous now. They are starting to wonder what else humans are capable of." Danny shrugged. "I did my job." Monroe shook her head. "It is more than that. You scared them, Danny. They have been looking down on us since we met them. Now, they are not so sure they should." That afternoon, Princess Valeth summoned Danny to her quarters. He went, expecting coldness and accusations. Instead, he found her sitting alone by the window, looking out at the stars. She did not turn around when he entered. Her voice was soft when she spoke. "My attendant was a traitor. He was working with enemies who want to stop the peace. You saved this mission. You may have saved my life." Danny stood at attention. "I was doing my duty, Your Highness." Now she turned. Her dark eyes studied him with a new expression. Curiosity, interest, something that might have been respect. "My people think humans are weak," she said. "We were told you are soft creatures who cannot fight. But I watched the recording from the security feed. I saw what you did." She paused. "You are not what we expected." Danny did not know what to say, so he said nothing. The princess stood and walked toward him. She stopped close enough that he could see the fine lines of her alien features, the subtle glow beneath her blue skin. "There will be more danger ahead," she said. "The enemies of peace are everywhere. Will you protect me, human?" Danny met her eyes. "Yes," she nodded slowly. "Then perhaps we will both survive this journey." She turned back to the window, and Danny understood that he was dismissed. He walked out of her quarters and back to his post. But something had changed. The princess no longer looked at him like he was nothing, and somewhere in the back of his mind, Danny knew that the real danger was still coming. The space station appeared on the viewport like a metal flower, floating in the darkness. It was massive, larger than any structure Danny had ever seen. Lights flickered across its surface like stars trapped in steel. This was neutral territory, the place where empires came to talk instead of fight. The horizon's edge docked at the lower ring. Danny stood beside Princess Valeth as the airlock opened and they stepped onto the station. The air smelled different here, cold and recycled, with a faint chemical tang that made his nose itch. Ambassador Cole led the way, looking nervous in his formal suit. Captain Monroe walked behind him with two of her officers. Danny stayed close to the princess, his eyes moving constantly, watching everything. The Xyreth delegation was waiting for them in the main hall. Danny had read the briefings. He had seen the pictures. But nothing prepared him for seeing the Xyreth in person. They were huge. The smallest of them stood over 7 feet tall. Their bodies were covered in dark armored plates that looked like natural bone but shined like polished metal. Their faces were sharp and angular, with deep-set eyes that glowed faintly yellow. They moved like predators. Every step was deliberate and powerful. When they looked at the human delegation, Danny saw something familiar in their expressions. It was the same look he had seen in the eyes of enemy soldiers just before a battle. Contempt, challenge, the quiet promise of violence. Their leader stood at the center of the group. She was taller than the others, and her armor was decorated with gold markings that caught the light. This was Queen Soraya of the Xyreth Empire. She had ruled her people for over 200 years. She had conquered worlds and crushed rebellions. She was one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. She looked at the humans like they were insects that had wandered into her path. The negotiations began in a large circular chamber. Danny stood against the wall behind Princess Valeth. watching the proceedings. Ambassador Cole tried his best, but he was clearly out of his depth. The Corvani and Xyreth spoke in circles, trading veiled insults and hidden threats. Every word had 3 meanings. Every gesture was a message. Danny did not understand the politics, but he understood body language. And something was wrong. He noticed that some of the Corvani guards were not watching the princess. They were watching a group of Xyreth warriors near the back of the room. Small glances, tiny nods, signals that most people would never notice. Danny's hand moved slowly toward his sidearm. His heart was beating faster. He had seen coordination like this before. In ambushes, in attacks that were planned to look like chaos. He leaned toward Captain Monroe and whispered, "Something is about to happen." Monroe frowned. "What do you mean?" Before Danny could answer, the lights went out. The room exploded into chaos. Plasma fire lit up the darkness in brilliant flashes of blue and green. People screamed. Bodies fell. Danny grabbed Princess Valeth and threw her to the ground, covering her with his own body. A bolt of plasma hit him in the back. The pain was incredible, like being burned and frozen at the same time. His armor absorbed most of the impact, but he felt his skin blister beneath it. He gritted his teeth and did not move. Another bolt hit his shoulder. Then, his leg. He was a shield. That was his purpose. He would not fail. The emergency lights came on, bathing the room in dim red. Danny looked up and saw the attackers clearly now. Corvani traitors and Xyreth dissidents. Working together, they were trying to kill both Princess Valeth and Queen Soraya. If they succeeded, the peace would be destroyed. The war would continue forever. Danny pushed himself up. His body screamed in protest. He could smell his own burned flesh. But he had work to do. He drew his sidearm and fired. One attacker fell. Then another. He moved forward, putting himself between the princess and the enemy. A Corvani traitor rushed at him with a blade. Danny shot him in the chest. A Xyreth warrior swung a massive armored fist at his head. Danny ducked and drove his pistol into the creature's throat, firing twice. The warrior collapsed, gasping and choking. Danny kept moving. He grabbed a broken chair leg from the floor and used it as a weapon when his pistol ran empty. He swung it into the skull of another attacker. The wood cracked against bone and the enemy went down. He lost count of how many he killed. 7, maybe more. His vision was blurring from pain and blood loss. His legs felt weak, but he could still see the princess behind him. Still alive. Still breathing. That was all that mattered. Across the room, Queen Soraya was fighting her own battle. Her warriors surrounded her, cutting down attackers with brutal efficiency. But the queen herself had stopped fighting. She was standing still, watching something. She was watching Danny. She had seen warriors from 100 worlds. She had seen the best fighters in the galaxy. But she had never seen anything like this. A small creature, barely half the size of her guards, taking wounds that would have killed any of her people, and still fighting. Still standing. Still protecting. The last attacker fell. The room went quiet except for the sounds of the wounded and dying. Danny stood in the middle of it all, swaying on his feet. Blood dripped from wounds he could not count. His armor was scorched and broken. The chair leg in his hand was splintered and red. Princess Valeth was crying. She was not hurt. She was crying because of what Danny had done for her. He turned to make sure she was safe. Their eyes met. He tried to say something, but no words came out. The world tilted sideways, and Danny fell. He hit the ground hard. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was Queen Soraya walking toward him. Her yellow eyes were wide with something he did not recognize. Her warriors tried to stop her, but she pushed them aside. She knelt beside his broken body and looked at his face for a long moment. Then she spoke, and her voice was soft with wonder. "What manner of creature is this?" No one answered. No one knew. The queen stood and turned to her physicians. Her voice was sharp now, commanding. "Save him. Use everything we have. This one does not die today." Her physicians hesitated. They did not understand why their queen cared about a dying human. But they knew better than to question her. They rushed forward with their equipment and began working on Danny's broken body. Princess Valeth watched from across the room, her face wet with tears. She owed this human her life. She would not forget that. And Queen Soraya stood over Danny's unconscious form, thinking thoughts that no one could read. Something had changed in her today. She had seen something that challenged everything she believed about strength and weakness, about power and worth. She had seen a human refuse to fall, and she wanted to understand why. Danny opened his eyes slowly. The light above him was soft and blue, not like any light he had seen before. He tried to move, but his body felt strange, heavy and light at the same time. Like he was floating in warm water. He was lying on some kind of medical bed. The room around him was large and filled with equipment he did not recognize. Machines hummed quietly. Screens displayed symbols in languages he could not read. The walls were dark metal, decorated with gold patterns that seemed to shift when he looked at them. This was not a human ship. He tried to sit up, and pain shot through his chest. Not the burning agony he remembered from the attack, but a dull ache that told him his body was still healing. He looked down and saw that his wounds had been treated. Where burned flesh had been, there was now smooth pink skin. New skin. The Xyreth had healed him with technology far beyond anything on Earth. A door opened, and a Xyreth physician entered. The creature was smaller than the warriors Danny had fought, but still towered over him. It carried a device that hummed and clicked as it scanned his body. "You are awake," the physician said. Its voice was deep and rumbling, like stones grinding together. "Your recovery is remarkable. We did not expect you to survive." Danny's throat was dry. "How long was I out?" 3 of your human days. You had 17 major injuries. Any one of them would have killed a member of most species. Yet here you are." The physician's yellow eyes studied him with something like curiosity. "Humans are more durable than we believed." The door opened again. This time, Danny felt the air in the room change. The physician immediately stepped back and bowed its head. Danny turned to look, and his breath caught in his throat. Queen Soraya stood in the doorway. She was even more impressive up close. Her armored body gleamed in the soft light. Her eyes burned like twin suns. She moved into the room with the grace of a creature that had never known fear, never doubted its own power for a single moment. She stopped beside Danny's bed and looked down at him. "Leave us," she said to the physician. The creature hurried out without a word. Danny lay still. He was unarmed, wounded, and completely at the mercy of one of the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. He forced himself to stay calm. Panic would not help him now. The queen did not speak at first. She circled his bed slowly, studying him from every angle. Her eyes moved over his body like she was examining a puzzle she could not solve. Finally, she spoke. "I have been alive for 230 years. I have conquered 12 worlds. I have killed more enemies than I can count. I have seen warriors from every corner of the galaxy." She paused. "I have never seen anything like you." Danny did not know what to say, so he waited. The queen continued. "In the attack, you took wounds that would have killed my best soldiers. You kept fighting when any reasonable creature would have fallen. You shielded that Corvani princess with your own body, sacrificing yourself for her survival." Her voice dropped lower. "Why?" Danny thought about the question. It seemed simple to him. "It was my job. I was assigned to protect her." "Your job." The queen's lips curled in what might have been a smile. "My warriors are trained from birth to fight. They are given the finest weapons and armor. They are taught that death in battle is the highest honor, and yet none of them would have done what you did." She leaned closer. "You are not trained like they are. You are not equipped like they are. You are small and soft and fragile. But you fought harder than any of them." Danny met her eyes. "Humans are tougher than we look." The queen straightened. She walked to the window and looked out at the stars. When she spoke again, her voice was thoughtful. "My people believe that strength is everything. The strong rule, the weak serve. It is the natural order of the universe. We look at humans and see small creatures with short lives and fragile bodies. We assumed you were weak. She turned back to him. But I am beginning to think we were wrong. Danny pushed himself up slowly, ignoring the pain in his chest. He sat on the edge of the bed and faced her. What do you want from me? The Queen walked toward him. She stopped close enough that he could feel the heat radiating from her armored body. Her eyes burned into his. Among my people, there is a law. When a warrior saves a life in battle, the one who witnesses the act may claim them. The warrior becomes theirs. To serve, to advise, to stand beside them in all things. She paused. I witnessed what you did. By Zyrith law, I may claim you as mine. Danny felt his stomach tighten. I am not Zyrith. Your laws do not apply to me. The Queen tilted her head. Perhaps. But I am offering you something no human has ever received. A place at my side. Access to power and knowledge beyond anything your people have ever known. You would be honored above all others. Danny stood up. His legs were weak, but they held him. He looked up at the Queen, at her glowing eyes, and her armored body, and her absolute certainty that she would get what she wanted. No, he said. The word hung in the air between them. The Queen's expression did not change, but Danny saw something shift in her eyes. Surprise, confusion, things she had probably not felt in decades. No, she repeated. I serve humanity. I protect people because it is right, not because I want rewards. I am not a prize to be claimed. Danny's voice was steady. I respect your power, your majesty, but I am not yours. The Queen was silent for a long moment. Her eyes searched his face, looking for weakness, for doubt, for any sign that he might change his mind. She found nothing. Finally, she spoke. No one has ever refused me. Danny shrugged. There is a first time for everything. The Queen stared at him. Then, slowly, a sound came from her throat. It took Danny a moment to realize what it was. She was laughing. The sound was low and strange, like metal scraping against stone. You are either the bravest creature I have ever met, she said, or the most foolish. I cannot decide which. Danny managed a small smile. Probably both. The Queen turned and walked toward the door. She paused before leaving and looked back at him over her shoulder. This is not over, human. You have caught my interest, and I do not lose interest easily. We will speak again. Her eyes gleamed. Rest now. Recover your strength. I have a feeling you will need it. She left, and Danny was alone. He sat back down on the bed, his heart pounding. He had just refused one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. He had no idea what would happen next. But he knew one thing for certain: his life had just become a lot more complicated. The days that followed were tense and complicated. The assassination attempt had exposed a conspiracy that reached deep into both empires. Investigators from all sides worked to identify the traitors and understand their plan. The peace talks were suspended, but no one had gone home. The situation was too dangerous, too unstable. Danny recovered quickly. The Zyrith medicine had repaired his body in ways that human doctors would have called impossible. Within a week, he was back on his feet and moving without pain. Captain Monroe had been worried about him, and she smiled with relief when he reported for duty. You scared us, she said. For a while, we thought we lost you. Danny shrugged. Takes more than that to kill me. Monroe shook her head. The Zyrith are talking about you. The Corvani too. Word has spread across the station. Everyone knows what you did. She paused. You are becoming famous, Danny. Or maybe infamous. I am not sure which. He did not want fame. He just wanted to do his job and go home. But it seemed the universe had other plans. Princess Valith came to see him that afternoon. She looked different than before. The coldness in her eyes was gone, replaced by something warmer. She seemed smaller, somehow. More vulnerable, almost human. I never thanked you properly, she said. For what you did, for saving my life, Danny nodded. You do not need to thank me. I was just doing my duty. No, Valeth shook her head. It was more than duty. I saw the wounds you took. I saw you stand when you should have fallen. No one has ever done anything like that for me. Her voice trembled slightly. My own guards ran. My own people betrayed me. But you, a human, a stranger, you shielded me with your body. She looked into his eyes. Why? Danny thought about the question. It was the same thing Queen Soraya had asked him. The answer was still the same. Because it was the right thing to do, he said simply. Valeth smiled. It was a real smile. The first one Danny had seen from her. My people have much to learn about humans. They talked for a while after that. Not about politics or war or duty. Just talked. Danny learned that Valeth was the youngest of 7 sisters. She had been chosen for this mission because she was considered expendable. No one expected her to succeed. No one cared if she failed. Danny understood that feeling. He had been expendable once too. Just another soldier, just another body to throw at the enemy. But he had survived. He had proven them wrong. Maybe Valeth could do the same. The crisis came without warning. Danny was eating dinner in the human section of the station when the alarms started. Red lights flashed. A voice spoke in multiple languages, warning everyone to stay in their quarters. Something had gone wrong. He ran to the command center and found Captain Monroe arguing with a Xyrith commander. Ambassador Cole was there too, looking pale and frightened. Even Queen Soraya was present, her face hard with anger. What is happening? Danny asked. Monroe turned to him. Her expression was grim. The conspirators. A group of them escaped capture. They have taken the station's reactor core hostage. They are threatening to destroy it if their demands are not met. Danny felt ice in his stomach. The reactor core powered the entire station. If it exploded, everyone would die. Thousands of people. Humans. Corvani. Xyrith. Everyone. What are their demands? They want ships, safe passage out of the system, and they want Princess Valeth and Queen Soraya delivered to them as prisoners. Monroe shook her head. We cannot give them what they want, but if we do not, they will destroy us all. Queen Soraya spoke, her voice cold with fury. My warriors will storm the reactor complex. We will kill every traitor and end this. The Xyrith commander shook his head. The reactor is too sensitive. If they detect our approach, they will trigger the explosion before we can reach them. We need precision, not force. Then what do you suggest? The Queen demanded. Silence. No one had an answer. Danny stepped forward. I can do it. Everyone turned to look at him. The Queen's eyes narrowed. The commander looked confused. Monroe looked worried. The reactor complex has maintenance tunnels, Danny continued. They are too small for Xyrith warriors, but I can fit through them. I can get inside without being detected. I can neutralize the threat. The Xyrith commander shook his head. Impossible. Even if you reach them, there are at least a dozen armed hostiles. One human cannot defeat them all. Danny looked at him steadily. You have not seen what one human can do. Queen Soraya stepped forward. Her eyes were bright with interest. You would do this? Risk your life again? You have already given enough, human. No one would blame you for stepping back. Danny met her gaze. There are people on this station I care about. My captain. My crew. The princess I was assigned to protect. I will not stand by and let them die. The Queen studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Very well. You will lead this mission. Take whatever you need. She paused. And human? Do not disappoint me. Mender. Thanks for watching. To see you in the next Vi. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. And this 45. Thanks are Mender. Danny gathered a small team. 3 members of his crew volunteered to join him. Lieutenant Sam Bradley. A pilot with steady hands and sharper eyes. Sergeant Maria Vega. a weapons specialist who never missed, and Corporal Kevin Park, a tech expert who could hack anything. They were all that could fit in the maintenance tunnels. They would have to be enough. They entered the tunnels from the lower deck. The passages were dark and cramped, filled with pipes and cables that made every movement difficult. Danny led the way, crawling through spaces that seemed too small for a human body. His team followed in silence. They reached the reactor chamber after an hour of crawling. Danny looked through a ventilation grate and saw the hostiles below. 12 of them. Just as the commander had said, a mix of Corvani and Xyrith traders, all armed with plasma rifles. At the center of the room, a device blinked with red light. The bomb. Danny whispered instructions to his team. They had one chance, one moment of surprise. If they failed, everyone died. He counted down silently. 3, 2, 1. They burst from the vents. Danny dropped onto the nearest hostile and broke the creature's neck before it could raise its weapon. Vega opened fire, dropping 2 more in quick succession. Bradley moved to flank them. Park ran for the bomb. The room exploded into chaos. Plasma fire filled the air. Danny moved through it like water, ducking and weaving, striking and killing. A Xyrith warrior swung at him with an armored fist. Danny dodged and drove his knife into the creature's throat. A Corvani trader tried to shoot him in the back. Bradley put a bullet through the trader's skull. It was over in less than 2 minutes. 12 hostiles lay dead on the floor. Park was working on the bomb, his fingers flying over the controls. "Can you stop it?" Danny asked. Park nodded, sweat dripping down his face. "Almost there. Just give me 10 more seconds." Those were the longest 10 seconds of Danny's life. Finally, Park let out a breath. Done. The bomb is disarmed. Danny closed his eyes for a moment. They had done it. They had saved everyone. Captain Monroe's voice came through his communicator. "Danny? Report. Threat neutralized," Danny said. "Reactor secure. We are coming home." On the other end, he heard cheering. Human voices. Corvani voices. Even some Xyrith voices. And somewhere in the command center, Queen Soraya was watching a screen that showed everything that had happened. She saw the humans fight with precision and courage. She saw them do what her own warriors could not. Her respect for them grew. And her interest in Danny Carter deepened into something she did not fully understand. The days after the reactor crisis changed everything. The conspiracy was fully exposed. Investigators traced the plot back to powerful figures in both empires who had grown rich from the endless war. They did not want peace. Peace would end their power. Now those figures were dead or imprisoned. The truth was known to all. And in the middle of it all stood a small group of humans who had saved thousands of lives when no one else could. The peace negotiations resumed, but the tone was different now. The Corvani and Xyrith no longer looked at the human delegation with contempt. They looked at them with something new. Curiosity. Respect. Even a little fear. Princess Valeth returned to her people a changed woman. She stood before her father's council and spoke about what she had witnessed. She told them about a human who shielded her with his body while plasma fire burned his flesh. She told them about a small team that crawled through tunnels to save a station full of strangers. She told them that humans were not weak. They were just different. "We judge strength by size and weapons and technology," she said. "But the humans showed me another kind of strength. The strength to protect others at any cost. The strength to keep fighting when all hope seems lost. The strength to do what is right, even when it is hard." She paused and looked at her father. "These are things we could learn from them." The Emperor listened in silence. When Valeth finished, he nodded slowly. "Perhaps we have underestimated these humans. Perhaps it is time to look at them with new eyes." On the Xyrith side, the change was even more dramatic. Queen Soraya called a formal assembly in the station's Great Hall. Diplomats from both empires gathered, along with the human delegation. Captain Monroe stood with her crew. Ambassador Cole looked nervous but hopeful. Danny stood near the back, trying not to draw attention to himself. It did not work. The Queen began her speech by recounting the events of the past weeks. She spoke of the attack, the conspiracy, the danger they had all faced. Then she spoke of the humans. "I have ruled the Zyrith Empire for over 2 centuries," she said. "I have seen empires rise and fall. I have witnessed courage and cowardice in equal measure. I believed I understood strength. I believed I knew what made a warrior worthy of respect." She paused and looked directly at Danny. "I was wrong." The hall went silent. No one had ever heard the Queen admit to being wrong about anything. "The humans are small," she continued. "Their bodies are fragile. Their lives are short. By every measure we use, they should be insignificant. And yet—" She stepped down from her platform and walked toward the human delegation. "And yet one of them took wounds that would have killed any of my warriors. He kept fighting when he should have fallen. He protected a stranger at the cost of his own blood." She stopped in front of Danny. Her eyes burned into his. "And when this station faced destruction, it was humans who saved us. Not Zyrith, not Corvani. Humans." She turned back to the assembly. "I do not understand how creatures so small can be so strong. But I know what I saw, and I will not forget it." She raised her voice so everyone could hear. "From this day forward, the Zyrith Empire recognizes human territories as protected space. Any attack on humanity will be considered an attack on us. We offer the humans our alliance, our respect, and our protection." The hall erupted in murmurs. This was unprecedented. The most powerful empire in the galaxy was extending friendship to the youngest and smallest species in known space. Ambassador Cole stepped forward, his face pale with disbelief. "Your Majesty, this is a great honor. Humanity accepts your offer of alliance with gratitude." The Queen nodded. "Good. Then let this be the beginning of a new age for all of us." Later that evening, Danny stood alone on an observation deck. The stars stretched out before him, countless points of light in the endless dark. He thought about everything that had happened. The fights, the wounds, the moments when he thought he would die. It all seemed unreal now, like a dream he could not quite remember. The door opened behind him. He did not need to turn around to know who it was. Queen Soraya walked up and stood beside him. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. They just watched the stars together. Finally, the Queen broke the silence. "You have changed things, Danny Carter. You have changed how my people see the universe. You have changed how I see it." She paused. "You may have even changed me." Danny glanced at her. "I did not mean to change anything. I just did what I thought was right." "I know." The Queen turned to face him. "That is what makes it remarkable. You do not seek power or glory. You do not fight for conquest. You fight for others. You fight for what you believe." She shook her head slowly. "My people have conquered worlds, but we have lost something along the way. We forgot why we fight. We forgot what we are fighting for." Danny thought about her words. "What will you do now?" "I do not know. I have ruled by strength alone for 200 years. Perhaps it is time to rule with something more." She looked at him with eyes that no longer seemed so cold. "I asked you once what humans fight for. You told me you fight for the people you care about. I have been thinking about that answer ever since." Danny nodded. "It sounds simple, but it is not easy." "No." The Queen agreed. "It is not." She straightened and clasped her hands behind her back. "I have a request for you. I would like you to serve as a liaison between our peoples, a bridge between the Zyrith and humanity. You would help us understand each other better." Danny considered the offer. It was not what he had expected. It was not what he had wanted. But maybe it was what he was meant to do. "I will do it," he said. "On one condition." The Queen raised an eyebrow. "Another condition? You are bold, human. I report to Captain Monroe. I serve humanity first. If there is ever a conflict between your interests and my people's interests, I choose my people." The Queen smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. "I would expect nothing less. That is exactly why I want you." She extended her hand in a gesture she had learned from watching humans. Danny looked at it for a moment, then reached out and shook it. Her grip was strong, but not crushing. She had practiced. "Thank you, Danny Carter," she said. "For everything." Danny nodded. "Thank you for giving humanity a chance." The Queen turned and walked away. Danny watched her go, then turned back to the viewport. Somewhere out there, the horizon's edge was preparing for departure. Soon he would be back on board, heading home to Earth. But he knew this was not the end. It was just the beginning. The door opened again, and Captain Monroe walked in. She came to stand beside him, looking out at the stars. "How does it feel?" she asked. "To have changed the course of galactic history?" Danny shrugged. "I was just doing my job." Monroe laughed. "That is the most human answer possible." They stood together in comfortable silence. Below them, ships moved through the darkness. Empires that had been at war for centuries were finally at peace. And somewhere, in the vast galaxy, word was spreading about the small, fragile creatures from a little blue planet who had proven themselves stronger than anyone imagined. The horizon's edge jumped to hyperspace, carrying its crew toward Earth. Danny watched the stars blur past and thought about the future. There would be more challenges ahead. More dangers. More moments when everything depended on doing the right thing at the right time. But he was ready. He was human. And that, it turned out, was enough.